This episode is sponsored by The Power of You, a leadership resource for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and anyone intent on developing their leadership impact and supercharging their career. For more information, check the podcast webpage or show notes. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Soul of Business with Blaine Bartlett. I am your host, Blaine Bartlett. You know, in my career, which spans a number of decades, not to kind of date me here a little bit, I've been fortunate enough to travel all over the world. At one point in time, probably 90+% of our book of business was outside of the U.S. And in that context, I've been, again, fortunate enough to work with leaders all over the planet, and some of the largest organizations on the planet, as well as some startups and some small and mid-sized companies. And the idea of how do you lead a diverse workforce, how do you lead in a global environment, has always fascinated me. And in the course of my career, I've, as I mentioned here, have been in a position to observe a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work. And the one thing that I've noticed that potentially, or not potentially, but truly does work, is the idea of networking and community, and being able to curate a community that actually serves the purpose that your organization is about. When I built my company, I founded it in 1987. We ended up with offices in 4 different countries, and those are all built out off of personal relationships. There was affinity, there were similar values and whatnot. So the soul of my business was in good hands as we started branching out. And I made sure that we were curating a connection to that soul with the people that with whom we were partnering. My guest today, Doug Bruhnke, is the founder of the Global Chamber. And the Global Chamber was founded in 2014. And today it has 525 chapters, literally spanning the globe in 195 countries. And I'm thrilled to be able to have Doug join me on this show for the purpose of exploring the nature of leadership as he sees it in a global community, in a global business community. And I'm just going to highlight something here very quickly. This was a quotation from Bill Edwards, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Edwards Global Services. Global Chamber is, based on my 47 years of doing global business, the best global business platform in the world. And when somebody of his stature says that, you have to pay attention. And Doug, I want to just welcome you, and I'm very eager to kind of unbundle your journey in part, but also kind of what you're paying attention to right now as you build out. And I know you got a big project that you're involved with right now that's taking a lot of your bandwidth. So I want to just welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much, Blaine. Really pleased and honored to be considered as a guest. To your point, global is different and important, and both of us share a background that is not only enjoyed global opportunities, but also respect what that brings to us and to the opportunity it brings to others. And really, that's what drives a lot of what we do, is the opportunity around the world for business and creating impact is so large, and so few of us have access to that. And that's what Global Chamber is all about, is creating access to opportunity. And I know you've spent a career doing the same kind of work.
Well, your first overseas business trip, if I have got my data right here, was in 1987 to Seoul, and then basically a couple of different places in South Korea. And then you actually ended up, and this is where we've got some similarities, as an expat in both Tokyo and in Singapore. And I lived in Tokyo for about 5 years as an expat. What, out of your experience, and you were trained as an engineer, and you worked with DuPont, which kind of got you overseas. What in 2014 was the kernel of thinking that gestated into Global Chamber? Where did this come from?
You and I both, and hopefully I would imagine the audience has had experiences, and we absorb what's going on in the world. And the way I absorbed it was through those experiences you mentioned, living overseas, traveling for decades. And I love global business. January of '87, when I went to Seoul for the first time, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I had no idea this would be something that I would love as much as I do, different cultures and doing business and asking questions and learning and helping and supporting. It was a thrill every time, every place I ever went. And so when I retired from DuPont and did other work, I worked for Phelps Dodge, a mining company, and ran a business unit there. And then as I kind of eased into retirement, if you will, this came to me while I had a kind of a bad meeting with an organization that would seemingly be pulling together people globally, and it wasn't. And I thought to myself, somebody should be pulling these opportunities together to allow people to be more successful with global business. And I don't see anything that's doing that. So somebody's going to need to step up and start something like a global chamber. And so I was in San Diego. I drove to Arizona, the 5.5, 6 hour drive. And by the time I'd gotten there, I thought, global chamber, this is what it's going to be. And so it was an idea to create opportunities for people across borders, but also even between San Diego and Phoenix. I thought, gee, if I had a business and I wanted to do business in both cities, what do I need to do? Open an office in both places? And which group do I join? There's 35 chambers of commerce in Phoenix. I mean, where do you start? Well, why don't you start with a global chamber where you can grow anywhere in a trusted community? And that was the gist after a 6 hour drive across the desert.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for stillness and silence as you go across the desert. The creativity. So with that kind of just beginning, 195 countries. That, I mean, how do you keep the ethos of the chamber invisible? How do you? I mean, just you've got to curate that in some way so that it doesn't just kind of scatter. How have you managed to do that with such a divergent group of business leaders around the globe?
Well, part of the idea that came to me while I was driving across the desert was if I could start a network, a platform that had people better and smarter than me, and then orchestrate it in some way. And it ended up being in metro areas. And part of the reason was that I found personally working with cities and city within a city, and particularly with cities versus states and countries, was a lot easier than working at the bigger entities. They're just more in touch with business. They're more in touch with kind of the reality of action instead of politics. And so if I could find somebody really connected and trusted and professional in each one of these cities and then connect them together, so their networks, they would go deep and wide, and we collectively would go really deep and wide, that would be amazing. So part of it is picking the right people.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned about disparate. I mean, they're geographically disparate, but there is a layer of thread. They're typically globally minded. They're professional. They sometimes are engineers like me. I am a chemical engineer. I will admit to that. And we actually do have a few of certainly engineers and even a couple chemical engineers around. Not that that's necessarily going to align you on everything. But if you're a professional and have certain standards and have a servant mentality and want to have impact and create impact for others and support an environment for that, the basic values of that create some commonality that creates the basis for working together and making improvement together. So we very rarely have too many issues. Certainly everybody has various challenges and problems and particular problems they have at the moment. But I've been pleasantly surprised that even with 525 chapters, I've only had to fire two. people over that whole time. And in other cases where people have eased out, we've had very logical, good, positive rotations out to better circumstances. And so we've been really blessed, but a lot of it is based on creating the values and finding people that fit those values.
I love that, because that is no small feat to be able to curate that sort of an experience. And I like, there was two things that you said here. One was it was a function of, bringing the right people in, number one, but also I was really struck with this, a focus on action rather, over politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's do. Let's get some stuff done here. And politics
That's fairly common internationally, because there's a lot
yes.
of people who have, policy conversations, or let's just take the tariff situation, right now. It's like everybody wants to pontificate about right or wrong and be judgmental about it. And we're not, it goes back to mindset of like, do we really want to be judgmental in our lives? Period.
Yeah.
And then if we're in business, sometimes it's better, in fact, almost always it's better not to be judgmental. It's better just to create a scenario where you just take the facts. What's the truth of the situation? What's the product that I have? How is it perceived? What is the market telling me? And without all of the other stuff, and be as clean and clear about that as possible. And when people start to pontificate about opinions about this or that, or judging people, whether it's right or wrong, I cut them off. We don't have time for that as entrepreneurs, as business people. Let's get to the root of things. If we're going to have results, we just need to look at things very clearly and not get on our soapbox. Let's just do. And what was it? It's sort of also like, I forget the author's name, but on his gravestone, it says, "Don't try, do." And
Yeah, it was
when
Yoda.
people want to try or pontificate, it's wasted effort.
Yeah.
Let's just get stuff done based on conversations that we have, the facts at hand, and where we want to go collectively. And so that is probably part of why we are together and we stay together, is we're not pontificators, we're doers.
We're doers, yeah. And I think the epitaph on that gravestone, that was Yoda. But you're talking about mindset, and there is a certain performance mindset that is a default for most entrepreneurs that are successful. And it's a mindset that's organized around action, around opportunity, around curiosity. Yeah, and just kind of what's in that cupboard, what's behind that shelf, what's over the horizon, those sorts of things. Yeah, and you and I have been in conversation for some time now about a mastermind program that we do, and we are actually bringing this into the global chamber environment, into this whole ecosystem. And you're familiar with some of the tenets of it and whatnot. We haven't launched it yet. We're in the process of just kind of getting all of the ducks lined up, the T's crossed and the I's dotted here. But for you, what is the value proposition for your members in actually involving themselves in what is essentially a year-long deep dive into the leadership mindset that allows for entrepreneurs to be particularly successful?
Yeah, I've been particularly impressed by you and the interactions that we've had with you and your skill set, not just to know what's right, but also to teach that to others through the coaching mechanisms that you have. I'm a long time proponent of Vistage. In fact,
Yeah.
Vistage, the peer-to-peer concepts behind Vistage, I was part of Vistage when I started Global Chamber, and I came back to Phoenix, and my Vistage meeting was the week or two after that, and I processed this idea with them, and they told me I was crazy, but it might be a good idea, but they knew I was crazy already, and I knew I was too. So that kind of peer-to-peer activity I know works when it's facilitated well. I've had, by the way, good and bad facilitators within Vistage,
Oh yeah.
and it makes a huge difference. And so when I've seen you facilitate and I've seen your philosophy and the way you interact with people, I've been really impressed. And so I feel really great about recommending the mastermind because it's going to help people. And, we all need help. The world is, quite honestly, a bit of a crazy place, not to be judgmental, but, it's always been kind of a crazy place, and it
Yeah.
seems to get faster and busier, and we're trying to cram so much in. And even though the natural tendency, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, is I'm so busy, I can't do stuff. I think sometimes when it's so busy, it's good to carve out time to do the right stuff. And I feel like the mastermind is part of the right stuff.
Well, I'm going to pick up on that thread if I could here. I mean, you're real close to the ground with, and you just, and we won't date this because it is intended to be greenfield sort of a thing here, evergreen. But you just hosted a meeting with all of your executive directors, and that the idea of uh, keeping people abreast of things, and this idea of continual learning. What in your conversations with your executive directors are some of the major challenges that they're actually facing right now in their chapters, but also as businesses around the world that working with a mindset structure could actually begin to facilitate solutions?
We actually we talked about it in today's Global Chamber newsletter. The word interdependence is something that really means a lot to us in our community because I view it as somewhat of a maturity that not everybody reaches. I was
True.
with my grandson this weekend, and he's going on 2, and he relies on our daughter, his mother,
Mm-hmm.
and he relies on us, the grandparents, and everyone around him for pretty much everything. But he's searching for independence,
Yeah.
and so we just had Independence Day, and every day we have almost every country has different Independence Day, and that's an important step for a country. It's an important step for a child to be independent and be able to go to school and do a variety of things along the way. The next step that not everybody receives is the interdependence.
Mm-hmm.
That, look, I'm good, the recognition of that, and I need other people to get to a next level
Yeah.
of strength, a next level of impact. And that's how I see the mastermind is that not everybody is ready to get help. Not everybody is ready to go beyond being independent. Hey, I started my own business. I'm great. Hey, that is great.
Yeah.
To do that work on your own and step away from a corporate world or whatever it ends up being, having been through that, believe me, I think we all can attest that's an amazing thing. The next step, though, is get people's help. Get the help of someone like you with a mastermind facilitation, the peers around you, and to ask the right questions and to be receptive to what you might hear and be able then to absorb that information. That's interdependence that we've talked about within our team, that we're all not there. I'm not there 100%. I have some challenges around that I'm working on.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Mine
all
is in the
do.
air too. Yeah.
Uh, and that's what we're working on as a team, and that's another reason why I believe that the mastermind is so important for people looking to make the really big impacts that we all are trying to make.
And for me, I mean, I'll just speak. I'm very obviously biased because I developed this mastermind program, but the kind of the catalyst for it had to do with the a recognition, and this kind of goes back to my opening monologue, introducing this episode. Uh, what I've noticed about leaders that are highly successful around the world, globally, successful in a global context, um, is their willingness to ask for help, their willingness to recognize, number one, that they're not doing this by themselves. And the moment I can recognize I'm not doing this by myself, then that opens a door to who do I, and it's now a question of not what do I do, but who do I need to connect with in order to do what I do. And that's a fundamental shift that highly successful entrepreneurs actually need to make, in my experience. And it's a shift from the what to the who. And if I'm able to do that, that sets me up to be not a better leader, but a different kind of leader. And a different kind of leader is going to get a different kind of results. I mean, the whole notion of, if I want to change my results, they're my results. So the only place I can go to is to me. Yeah, I have to change me in order to change my results. And that's what we're looking to do with this mastermind program. And Doug, I can't thank you enough for being willing to entertain it as a offering within the Global Chamber, culture environment, that whole ecosphere that you've actually produced and created.
It's such a fit, and the one of the characteristics of people that have always kind of inspired me are the lone wolves. The people who they've been alone, and they see their own successes, their own kind of within the walls of their own home or within their own body, and by giving up connectivity to others, they feel like they've lost power, that somehow the world is split, so that by giving someone a little bit more, they lose, when it's quite the opposite. And I'm speaking from my own experience, that I had that. Being a hyperachiever type of a personality, I achieved because I did some pretty good things.
You got a couple patents and
but at some point, to get to the next level of performance, it goes way beyond you. And I've learned a little bit over the years, but I'm still learning every day. And I want our team and I want our members to not be anywhere near a lone wolf, to be more interdependent and to take advantage of what we're talking about here, so that they can reach the next level. Life is short, so why not have the biggest impact we can all have in the shortest amount of time? And the only way to do that is with the help of others.
It is. And that's an interesting way of framing the definition of success. You've been successful. The organization you're what, 2025 now, so you're 11 years in. 195 countries, all these chapters around the world. What is your aspiration for what's next for Global Chamber?
We entered this really, going into our 10th year anniversary, and coming all that together. One of the things that really hit me was that we could be much bigger and we could scale much more successfully. And the limitation was me, that I was in the way of getting to the next level. So I brought on Dr. Sanjeev Kagram, who left Thunderbird last year after 7 years as the dean and CEO, an amazing global icon. And when he left, one of his interactions was with me, and we had a drink at a bar. I don't do that very often, and got to just listen to him. And he finished it by saying, "I believe in Global Chamber. I love the Global Chamber. I love what you're bringing to the world, and I want to help. I think we can take this to the next level." So we've created a global board, and I've become a lot more cognizant of me and the barrier that I create, and bringing on more people. And so that's again why the mastermind, I'm so receptive to it, Blaine, regarding how do I get to the next level. Part of it for me has been the global board. Part of it has been the system that you alluded to that we're implementing to be able to scale. So for the next several years, and certainly the next couple decades, hopefully, if my health holds up, to be able to build Global Chamber to be the ubiquitous global chamber everywhere in the world, with many hundreds of thousands or millions of members. We've only got in the tens of thousands of members, but we can be much bigger, much more ubiquitous. And that's what our goal is, to have an impact on a greater scale. So many people are limited by their own locality. There's nothing wrong with local. It's a good thing. We should be paying attention to all the things right around us. But the world is so big and so many opportunities. And yes, it's daunting. And who to trust and who to go to and which opportunity do we go after? That's a good problem to sort through. And so we need to continue to facilitate creating that platform to be able to allow many more people to be able to take advantage of what the Global Chamber is bringing to many people today. We can bring many more. So that's basically it. I found my life calling. This I don't have there's nobody other than maybe you that has a better job than me, because I love what I'm doing. I love helping people see the opportunity and to achieve the opportunity and to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've mentioned the word impact a couple of different times, and I think that is one of the most apt descriptions of success. And it's a metric of, yeah, not what am I doing, but what's the consequence of what we're doing? What's the consequence? And if we can, this book over my shoulder, for those of you that are watching on a video, it's my book, Compassionate Capitalism, A Journey to the Soul of Business. My take on business is that the purpose of business is to uplift the experience of living on this planet. And that's not just for individuals. It's for everything on this planet. Uplift the experience of being here. And if we're doing that as a business, we're going to be pretty successful. And the caveat there is we're not going to do it alone. We can't do that alone. It's through our connections with other people. Doug, where can people find out more about the Chamber?
The Global Chamber is at globalchamber.org. So just globalchamber.org. We're very active in LinkedIn. And so we have a lot of activity there, and our members have all sorts of things going on. But if you visit our website, feel free to reach out there, come out to LinkedIn and see us there. We have a few hundred Facebook and X pages and things like that, but are at the crux of where we exist and where our members thrive is usually in LinkedIn. We have a variety of other communities, including WhatsApp communities within Global Chamber, but the public can see us outside there.
Great. Folks, we've been talking to Doug Bruhnke, the CEO, founder of Global Chamber. And I want to just thank you again, Doug. I've loved this conversation. I am delighted to be in harness with you. I truly am. I look forward to a very impactful collaboration as we kind of walk this path together going down the road here.
We're really honored and pleased that you asked me to be here. I love what you're doing. I've seen you in action and just so in admiration for the body of work and also your continued success in helping others. Thank you for having impact. Thank you for having influence, and thank you for today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely. Folks, thank you for listening today. As always, I'm going to sign off with an admonition. As you walk around nature and you pay some attention, you'll notice that there is nothing in nature that actually serves solely as a center of accumulation. Everything in nature at some point in time, in some way, shape, or form, is a center of distribution. And that's how life works. You're a part of nature, act like you're a part of nature. Be a center of distribution. Give away a hug, give away a smile, give away something. Be distributive in your life, and you're going to find it works a whole lot better. Until next time, this is Blaine Bartlett. You've been listening to The Soul of Business with Blaine Bartlett, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care. This episode is sponsored by The Power of You, a leadership resource for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and anyone intent on developing their leadership impact and supercharging their career. For more information, check the podcast webpage or show notes. Hi, I'd like to ask you to do something for me if you wouldn't mind. If you like this episode, I'd like you to not only subscribe on your favorite site, but I'd also like you to give a rating. Ideally, a 5-star rating would be greatly appreciated. But I think more importantly also would be just some comments. That helps with the algorithm and it helps build the audience with this. And more than anything else, if you could invite somebody else to listen, just share this episode with a friend, with a colleague. And I'd like to see how we can grow the soul of business. I think it makes a difference. Thanks.